one takes me seriously. For some reason, everybody just laughs at me for being myself.
I mean, dude, if you want to be taken seriously, I feel like there's like a really obvious solution here.
What do you mean?
What is it about creators of incredibly popular shows and their relationships with the internet that just generates immense amounts of hate? Seriously, on a fairly meta level, I ask myself this question every time I make a video on Vivziepop and any one of her projects. And while some will try to convince you otherwise, I'm far from the only person who covers Vivziepop. That aside, I always ask myself, why is it a show as unanimously adored as Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss is so ripe with debate online? Why do two shows with such decent reviews online have so much hostility towards them? Where indie shows like LMS Mark's Catching Up basically fall out of public discussion immediately, why is it that not only are Vivziepop shows consistently in the public eye, but Vivziepop herself? I mean, just try and think of a creative show or game that people talk about as much as this, where the creative of the show or game is actually talked about almost more than the game itself. The only I can really think of are maybe Kojima.
Oh, wait. There's Kojima, look.
And the creator of Bayonetta, who famously is kind of a jackass on social media and blocks everybody who even makes a normal passing comment on his games, to the point in which Mega64 even made a joke about it in one of their videos featuring him. But something I have to confess, because I think it's kind of in order with, 30 videos of her now? I'm in no way somebody who hates Vivziepop.
I want you to kill Vivziepop.
In fact, I've grown to respect the woman for her insane dedication to the craft of showrunning a successful series with a massive fan base. However, just because she has this level of appreciation doesn't mean I can't still find myself asking,
Why?
Aside from the two people I mentioned before, really think of some greats in Hollywood. Someone like Chevy Chase, a once beloved comedian, now a joke to most as the racist asshole of SNL who was never asked to return, even for the anniversary. Think of people like James Woods, once adored for his talents in film and animated shows like Family Guy. Now he's the crazy conspiracy theorist spamming insanity on Twitter. It got so bad he was sneakily featured in Eddington as a nut job. I guess what I'm trying to get at here in an incredibly roundabout way is that Vivzie's greatest talent in staying relevant with her shows is also her greatest weakness. While most actors, directors, and showrunners tend to slink away from the internet, Vivzie constantly throws herself out there for the world to gawk at, entirely unfiltered, often engaging with fan theories, criticism, and combating video essays online. And I think the age-old adage that your talent value must always be higher than your headache value has slowly been catching up to Vivian. Also, just a quick reminder, these longer videos take a lot more time to put together, so if you're enjoying it, feel free to drop a like, maybe subscribe, and if you haven't already, leave a comment, even if you don't agree with me. The engagement really helps this video get seen. While I still find it absolutely absurd you have people in the current day saying creators of shows shouldn't be political on main. I mean, hell, the Owl House and the Knights of Guinevere's creator has been this often, and I adore her for that. Fuck Disney. And I disagree with this odd centrist take that you should just avoid talking about the president.
Posted another anti-Trump reel onto her story for the third time that day. That's when it starts to become a bit messy. Vivian will, subtly or not, talk down to her fans. For example, saying that if you voted for him, you voted for someone who wants to harm and control all that opposes him, who goes against everything your country stands for, and someone who is cruel, pathetic, and sad.
Shall I tell you who the minorities are? We! Because to live in a free, white America seems to be of a minority opinion.
Controversial, I know, guys. Anyways, I'm not about to morph into movie bump, so let's move on with the video. I will admit there is some merit, however, in the fact that Vivian tends to vent her anger at her audience a bit too much, to a point where it often does the opposite of what she thinks she wants it to do. If she wants to truly change her viewers' minds, she needs to be less vitriolic. However, that's just the thing, and it leads us to the next issue I've noticed, which has been her undoing online in terms of public perception, more so than anyone claiming that her politics are really her undoing, because no, they're not. This is something I've come to realize is perhaps her biggest deterrent to people who have never even watched or cared about Hazbin Hotel or Helluva Boss. And while most people in some of the polls I've made have said that they dislike the writing the most, it's her public behavior online. I'd even go as far as to say that a lot of the hate for her shows doesn't even come from the fact that the shows are bad, because I'll be the first to say, as someone who's actively critical of her work, more so than perhaps an A. Lamau, they're not terrible. They're just flawed in ways that make them painfully insufferable for some of us who still watch and even enjoy them to a certain degree. And I say this as somebody who made an AMV-style music video to celebrate the animation of the year. Guess who I included in that video? But as I was saying, this is where I argue the biggest deterrent to her new viewers come. How Vivzie addresses anything she sees online that even is vaguely alluding to her not being perfect. You see it in the things she shares on Blue Sky about fandoms criticizing her work, and more importantly, you see it in how she actively uses social media to go on the attack when anyone posts anything about her negatively. Take Mepety's video on Hazbin Hotel's design work. She, an actual professional animator and artist, made some critiques and redesigns of the show for fun. And what was Vivzie's first instinct? Well, to take to Twitter and immediately berate the video, painting an unfavorable portrait of video essayists as if they're just cavemen with blue yetis who have zero say on art.
What I want to touch on is tangents. These are subtle compositional errors where lines awkwardly converge or touch in uncomfortable ways, or get too close to each other or to the edge of the canvas. In Hazbin, they are everywhere. With Vaggie, look where her skirt meets her thighs, where her hair touches the top of her stockings, or how her fringe pinches near her arm.
Well, let's be honest, you don't have to be a professional artist to notice that she does that thing even the 343 artists did with Halo 4, where they basically just clusterfuck every design just because.
In reality, it's honestly just when I make a design, sometimes when I look at them, I'm just like, I don't know, something's missing. And then this one line, this one little black line, and I go, all right, they look better now.
What the hell is this?
And while I understand that, hey, there are people online who actually attack her personally in ways that are completely unhinged. Blackish!
It's bold in terms of jerking people around, but I may have gone too far in a few places.
Those people, to a certain degree, have some basis for their personal attacks, as she has effectively invited that kind of response with how she insults people online and allegedly treats workers behind the scenes. So personally, while I wouldn't ask people to draw her in gross, grotesque ways, I can kind of understand why some people would see this as totally alright. And as someone who's received her vitriol online, I can see where some of these people come from in wanting to clap back at her. When she saw a thumbnail I posted previously as a joke, without watching the video, she immediately jumped the gun and called me a misogynist. Not too differently from how she treated Mepety's video, invalidating me because I used her meme of "if written by Vivzie." However, I have the ability to realize that she is a woman under an immense amount of pressure, and while I found her reaction asinine, I didn't take it personally, because you know goddamn well she also didn't watch the video just like Mepety's. A video, by the way, which in no way paints a picture that Gendy's movie was bad because it was written similarly to how a woman, Vivzie, would write. In fact, I said while I thought the movie was cringy in certain overly edgy parts, I even found myself cringing a few times, and not in the good sense. Hell, even Gendy acknowledged that it was a little bit much at times.
As we were working on it, I started to get a sense of it's maybe too much.
But that said, you still could tell this film was a labor of love from a man who just wants to experiment with animations. I could still tell there was a heart in its creation, almost like a certain someone's shows that are ongoing and I have very different takes on. Personally, I just think Vivzie is interesting, and that's why I keep making these videos. Not out of spite, but because when Hazbin Hotel hit Amazon, before I even made these videos, all I'd ever heard about Vivzie was that she was rude online. I didn't believe it at first. I figured it was just internet exaggeration, but over time I realized there was some truth to it. Not because she's a bad person, but because of how she engages with the internet with next to no filter. And hey, I can relate to that to a certain degree. Obviously on a smaller scale. These videos have put me on Reddit threads where people claim I personally hate Vivzie, which just isn't true. While I've been more critical of her, my channel is always focused on indie animators, and whether people like it or not, Vivzie is basically the face of of indie animation right now, so it's hard to talk about that space without also acknowledging how poorly some of these moments that Vivzie has had have played out publicly. However, I've never insulted her or called her shows bad, and I'm not of the people who say that you're wrong for liking the show. In fact, I enjoy quite a bit of it, as I've already mentioned before. My channel has never been about hate, it's been about how creators handle success online and what they do with it. I mean, just looking at Zach Hadel and Michael Cusack, both creators who also started on YouTube and rose to pretty good fame on Adult Swim, neither are perfect angels. Hell, I still don't know what Zach was trying to imply when he said this.
You're saying I could go on Redbubble and find a Ukrainian girl that makes this on crack times better?
They've both remained mostly professional on the internet. Outside of the odd political joke Zach makes, they both mainly just share art on the internet. They rarely say anything about their shows, and you'll never see them online debating anything. The most you'll get is Zach clarifying that people either misinterpreted Charlie or explain to everybody that the show isn't that deep. But you'll never see anybody outright debating or arguing with them over the show. Hell, even when the internet turned on Charlie for that scene where he was verbally abusive to his girlfriend while wasted at the Christmas party in the finale, you didn't see Zach getting mad online. He just doubled down and said, yeah, Charlie is an imperfect guy, a character that he himself voices, and knows to a certain degree is a bit of a self-insert. He didn't feel the need to start screaming at people that they were wrong about how they characterized him. Meanwhile, Vivziepop will go into full-blown hysterics online over how people feel about her often incredibly edgy characters, to the point where she's claimed she plans to stop answering questions about the show at conventions. Vivzie's issue is that, like her art, she's loud, abrasive, and goes against the grain, which makes it almost impossible to ignore her shows or her herself. But that comes with the baggage of being somewhat stubborn. I imagine that to a degree, she often thinks,
I'm incredibly successful, I'm hot shit, so I don't need to listen to people's critiques. I'm goddamn Vivziepop, the showrunner with millions of views to her name.
A mindset that has no doubt led her to struggle with the idea of working with friends or collaborators who might clash with her strong personality.
My dream was always to work with friends. Like, I was like, I just want to work with my friends. Working with friends is sometimes not the best idea, especially when you're like the boss of a show. So my best friends that I have now, I met through my production.
Zach and Michael, on the other hand, never lost sight of the fact that they were always just a small duo of YouTubers who happened to stumble upon success with their Adult Swim show's pilot and seasons that came after.
5 years from now, my real ideal would be to see not just me, and I mean this really, a lot of other really talented YouTube people, Newgrounds people, everywhere, any site you can think of. I think doing TV shows and film and music, you already see with Joji, Filthy Frank BK, he's a successful musician. Like, even if I fail, the good news is, even if I completely fail, if I die tomorrow, there will be people that come and will be continuing to come to migrate from YouTube, from the internet, to traditional media, and they're all gonna kill.
Both Michael and Zach have stayed remarkably humble when talking about their work online. They never present themselves as above criticism, and they don't lash out when people call their realistic dialogue cringe or unfunny. A pretty common complaint I've seen often online, almost as much as people complaining about Vivzie's swearing in her shows. But the most you'll ever get is potential jabs at their critics in episodes, where you almost get the sense they know their humor is stupid and not above people calling it out.
Didn't even try. He's ugly.
Yeah, that's why it's funny. That's the joke.
It's just stupid idiot humor.
I mean, I saw Gleplab. Boy, I guess both Glep and I are idiots.
Yeah.
If anything, they're very aware of how lucky they are to be in the position they're in, and they frequently use the platform to spotlight and uplift independent animators from across the internet. He actively chooses to work with his close friends, not just by hiring them, but giving them space to fully show what they're capable of. Whether it's Oni producing Brown Smile, the theme of the show, or having Tomar voice various background characters, their contributions don't feel sanitized or filtered through some rigid house style. Instead, they're allowed to bring their voices and sensibilities into the show, largely unrestrained, as it's less about control and more about trust, letting his friends shine as themselves, without ever feeling tied down to the show needing to feel like a purely Zach or Michael production, as they openly invite different artistic liberties, unlike Vivzie handles her shows. And I know this comes off as insanely glazing, but really think about how rare this is. They never let the show be about either one of them. They've been an absolute net positive online for animators everywhere. With next to no ego, they created a show as an escape for themselves and others working long days. And while they claim to have been influenced by shows like Ugly Americans and BoJack Horseman, they never argue online or insist that their show is something deeper than a fun popcorn watch. Vivziepop, by contrast, often doubles down arguing the importance of her shows, drawing comparisons between her one-note characters and the complexity of BoJack Horseman.
I personally always want to explore the characters, even if they are kind of, because she is like one note, but even then it's like most one note people have kind of are that way because of something. I hearken it a lot to BoJack Horseman because that's my favorite series of all time. And his mother is a character that's very similar. She's incredibly one note. She's just full on, just like the most cartoonishly abusive mother ever.
While Zach and Michael, even when people like Pillar of Garbage or jackasses like myself, praise their show for its thematic weight in certain episodes, still avoid pretending that it's anything other than something they wrote for the fun of it.
Dialing that back and just doing more stupid, fun, like funny stuff kind of softened that a bit. And it made it seem like it wasn't this big, statement and a big message. We don't want to send like this crazy big message or anything. So.
And people turned it into that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it's there in a subtle sense, but that's only for like I say, just like a little observation. It's not really it's not a big, you're an idiot if you're a nihilist. Like it's not that. It's not right. Anything really. It's just
it also
light.
Like it just served a good purpose to like, what is the opposite of the smiling face? To make people miserable.
And you can tell they genuinely had fun making it. Unlike Vivzie, who struggles to juggle creative choices with others, Zach and Michael openly acknowledge that their show isn't wholly one person's vision. It's a collaborative effort that only works because both of them run the show.
I've seen a lot of people when they tweet at me over Smiling Friends and say like, oh, I can totally tell you did this. The truth of the matter is, we both did like everything together, and I mean that. I'm not just saying that. Like every character creation, every line of dialogue, all the backgrounds, everything. It was a conversation.
Whereas Vivzie will likely fight tooth and nail for eternity for her shows to always be labeled a Vivziepop production. With channels like mine and others who still cover Vivzie, the question at the end of the day really is it worth it? Well, for one, hey, we've got bills to pay. But honestly, I do have a goal when I make these videos. People want to air their grievances with her. It's not just to hate on her. Hell, it's why I started making these videos to begin with. Despite the fact that, good lord, the more I look at my thumbnails, the more I worry that I might be misinterpreted as some geeks and gamer dweeb dunking on Brie Larson for the 100th time because she said something that triggered them. But hey, I'm a one-man team, so one day I'll improve on my clickbaity thumbnails. Who knows, maybe one day I'll hire a thumbnail artist. I digress. My main hope is that one day she comes to the sobering realization that not only are her shows not perfect, like all art mind you, but that she desperately needs to hire a PR agent to handle her socials and just tell her to chill. Because seriously, if she could be this tone deaf when attacking a stupid thumbnail I posted, imagine how she handles people who won't even give her a chance and will use her online behavior as a justification to openly hate her online. Like I said before, her talent is slowly being overshadowed by her headache, and it's only a matter of time before that headache turns into a migraine for more than just YouTube channels like mine. With any luck, videos like mine and others will rub off on people in her inner circle and inspire them to call Vivzie a medium talent, like Bill did to Chevy Chase after being a diva on set. God knows she needs to know it's not just video essayists that find her hard to tolerate. And while I don't expect her writing to suddenly improve overnight even if she gets different writers, I really do think she could easily change her behavior online, and that would make a large difference for how she's perceived. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next week. Well, if you've made it this far, you clearly enjoyed the video. And if so, thank you for watching. If you're not subscribed already, and you want to hear more of my thoughts on Vivziepop and the broader indie animation scene, feel free to subscribe. I post weekly, and I run polls from time to time so you can help decide what I cover next. Last week I tackled the return of 2D animation in film, and before that I made a video on Gooner art thanks to 2K people who voted in the polls. And a quick shout out to that one person who bought me a coffee last week on my Buy Me a Coffee. You fucking rule, dude. Seriously. If you'd like to support the channel like they did, I have a link in the description below, but honestly, it's not absolutely needed, because at the end of the day, I just am glad you guys are watching my video at all. So if anything, feel free to leave a comment, or as I said before, subscribe, because at the end of the day, a like, a sub, and even a comment are all that really matters in terms of supporting my videos, because at the end of the day, that's all it really takes for the algorithm to pick your videos up and get you some good traction online with some decent views. So that's all I really need at the end of the day. So with that, I'll see you guys next week.